Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Okay, welcome everyone. It looks like many new people joined online, so welcome to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Our teacher today is David Richo. We'll hear from him shortly. First, is there anyone here for the first time or returning from a long absence? Yes?
Returning from a long absence.
What's your name?
Steve.
Hi, Steve. Welcome back. Welcome in person. How about anybody online? You should be able to unmute yourself and just say hello. 24.
Hello, I'm calling in from Texas. It's been a while, but good to be here.
Hi, Tom. Nice to see you. Anybody else? Great. Well, welcome. So today our teacher is David Richo. He's a psychologist, teacher, and writer in Santa Barbara and San Francisco who emphasizes Jungian, transpersonal, and spiritual perspectives in his work. He's the author of How to Be an Adult in Relationships, and you can check out his website, www.daverico.com. I'll pop it in the chat, and I'm going to bring the microphone to him and aim the camera at him, and welcome Dave. Okay.
Thank you. Don't we go around with the first names?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm Risha. Thank you.
Jim.
Ray.
Henry.
Susan.
Trace Cass.
Barney.
Jerry. Tom.
Jeff. My name is Stephen. Steve.
I'm Richard.
Jeff. I'm Brian.
And I'm Dave. So welcome and thank you for inviting me. The enemies of Buddha had come up with yet another way to destroy him. They commandeered a fierce, gigantic elephant to charge at him and trample him. He was sitting quietly in meditation, and he looked straight ahead at the elephant charging toward him. But he looked directly into the elephant's eyes, and he saw fear. This led him to respond as he always did to fear, with compassion. He raised his right hand, which symbolizes no to fear. He cupped his left hand in his lap, which symbolizes yes to love. No to fear, yes to love. When the elephant saw this and understood it, and was touched by the compassion in the eyes of Buddha, recognizing his actual feeling, mirroring his fear, he stopped in his tracks and bowed with no further plan to attack. The hand gestures are called a mudra, and this is the first mudra that the Buddha created. It's right hand palm outward, that's no to fear. Left hand cupped in your lap, that's yes to love. And so the very first way of working with fear, our topic today, from a spiritual point of view, would be to look with compassion at ourselves as we charge against ourselves. In other words, to look in a friendly way at our fear, to see it with compassion, to recognize that it comes from a long history going all the way back to childhood. We'll talk about that shortly. And to greet it with loving kindness. That's the spiritual style of working with fear. But there's also a psychological way of working with fear, which I'd like to discuss. And I think I'll begin with this quotation that you've all heard, but I want to parse it a little bit. So this is 1933, Franklin Roosevelt's first inaugural address. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. So I'll read it once more. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. So the first thing he's doing is distinguishing the two types of fear: appropriate fear and nameless, unjustified fear. In other words, it's not based on an actual threat. Why do we have fear in us? Well, nature put it in us for an important reason. Recognizing that one of the givens of human life will be meeting up with threats and danger, there has to be some kind of program inside of us that could handle this. So fear, which generates adrenaline, equips our bodies for flight, fight, or freeze, whichever one is most appropriate given the threat, and that helps us survive. So for instance, if 35 rattlesnakes came through that window right now, all of our adrenal glands would flood us with adrenaline, equipping us, brings the blood from the brain to the extremities. It would make us able to run out of here faster than we would if no rattlesnakes had come in. Of course, there might be one guy who will just sit here and do what Buddha did, look them in the eye with compassion, hold up his right hand. I don't recommend it. So we make that distinction. For instance, the fear of vulnerability in a relationship. I don't want to show the other person my shadow side. I don't want the other person to realize there's a selfish part of me. I don't want to come right out and admit that and say, yeah, I'm trying to work on this. I want to hide it because maybe he won't like me anymore. Well, that would be this other kind of fear, the fear that isn't really justified, because if you did try it out, if you did open yourself to someone that you were learning to trust and saw that that person accepted you just as you are, you would be less likely to continue having such a fear. So when he says the fear is nameless, that's going to lead us, that's going to help us with the first part of our program to deal with fear from a psychological point of view. to admit that we're afraid, to name it. To say to someone, there are things about me that I'm not proud of, and I'm ashamed and afraid to let you know about them, even though we are getting closer and closer now. So I'm going to name my fear, so that's the admitting. And remember, in the AA program, the second word of the 12 steps is admitted. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. So there's something about the admitting that puts you on the path toward healing. Secondly, he says it's unreasoning. He's right on target with modern neuroscience, which says that when fear is activated in us, our reasoning powers go offline. And of course, nature has made us that way because that helps us take action instead of stop and think. So if when the rattlesnakes came through the window, if your tendency was to stop and philosophize about this, you wouldn't survive as well as the rest of us whose intellects went offline so that we could think and do only one thing, which is flee. Unjustified, because it doesn't really have a foundation, which paralyzes. So what the fear does is it stops you from taking action. Or another way of saying it is, you are held back from life's journey because of fear. So now let's go to our program, which is aimed directly at releasing us from the paralysis. So, and the three words start with A, so easy to remember. First, I admit my fear. Then I allow my fear to pass through me. I don't try to avoid the fear. I don't try to run away from it. I let myself feel it fully. And then, instead of being paralyzed, I act as if the fear could not stop me or drive me. It can't stop me from doing what I need to do, and it can't make me do what I don't really want to do. So, I feel the fear of closeness, fear of abandonment, fear of engulfment. These are examples of fears in relationships. I admit to myself and to one person I trust that I am afraid. I let myself feel the fear as if I were a lightning rod and the fear is going from the top of my head out the soles of my feet into the earth. I'm putting the fear back into the earth. Just what the elephant did when he bowed. When he put his trunk on the earth, he was depositing his fear back into the earth. So I'm admitting, I'm allowing, and then I'm acting as if the fear could not stop me. I said to myself, David, it's a waste of time to try to get rid of fear. Given your background, you're going to be feeling fear your entire life. So why bother putting energy into not feeling it? That's where I come up with this idea of the 3 A's. I said, okay, I can't stop myself from fearing, but there's one thing I don't have to do. I don't have to act on the fear. And the path to not acting on it is to admit it in a friendly way, allow it in a friendly way, and then not have to act on it. Unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Advance is heroic journey. Just what we all have as an archetype within us. We're all on some kind of a journey through life. Hopefully it's a journey through whatever happened to us in childhood into a healing space where we now become people of integrity and loving kindness in accord with the Dharma. So when he ends with the word advance, he's on the topic of journey. Don't be paralyzed by your fear so that you can't get on with your journey. Don't hang back and retreat. We need your efforts. All of us have to pull together so that we can handle the fear that we're feeling. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. So I want to say two more things about fear, then open it up to discussion. First of all, some of the fears that we carry around are not our own. We might have taken on some of our mother's fears or father's fears, and now with the new realizations about epigenetics, even within our DNA, we could have inherited the social or familial fears from our own background. For instance, if you were brought up by people who went through the Holocaust, somewhere in your DNA is the terror of being destroyed just because you are of a certain religion or nationality. Also, if you were brought up by people who went through the Depression, you could always have this sense of scarcity. You think to yourself, well, where did this come from? But it's an inheritance from them. It's not as if they were trying to put fear into you, or they might have, but it doesn't have to be that way. But some of the fear, you have to ask yourself, is this really mine? I remember an episode on MASH. In this episode, TV comedy. In this episode, the doctor was coming into the OR, operating room, and behind him there were guys holding a stretcher with a wounded soldier on it, and the nurse was standing beside the patient. The doctor turned to the nurse and said, what's his diagnosis? And the nurse said, he has a compound fracture. Compound fracture is one in which the bone sticks out. Simple fracture, the bone is broken, but it stays internal. The doctor wondered about the diagnosis. He lifted up the sheet. He looked at the soldier's leg. He said, no, this is not a compound fracture. I've seen this many times. This is somebody else's bone that was shot off and went into the sky. This is not his bone. This is somebody else's. That's when I thought to myself, That's what happens with fear. Somebody else's fear is sticking out of me or into me, and it's going to create a terrible infection unless I get to work on it. And the second part of this issue of fear takes us back to the story of Buddha and reminds us of the phrase in the Bible, true love casts out fear. That's exactly what happened in the story of the Buddha and the elephant. True love casts out fear. And so the issue psychologically is trust. Can I trust love enough to believe that if I act in a loving way, I will gradually become less fearful? I know it's hard to picture, but that's basically what the Dharma is telling us, and it also fits psychologically because this loving trust makes you stronger. And so you're less likely to be at the mercy of fear. We're not trying to, as I said, we're not trying to free ourselves from fear, but we are trying to free ourselves from the grip of fear, which converts needed efforts to advance into retreat. So, let me check in with you. You guys have questions or ideas on this topic? And I'm also opening it up to the people who are on Zoom. Yeah, and you are?
Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hey there. Do you make a distinction between fear and anxiety?
Yes. Anxiety usually refers to an overall feeling of fear that does not have a particular cause. Just feel anxious and you don't really know why. Whereas the word fear is used when it's a fear of something. I have a fear of bridges, I have a fear of snakes, I have a fear of revealing myself, I have whatever. So that's the usual way they distinguish. But this program would work for both anxiety and fear. I admit that I am anxious. I let myself feel the anxiety, but I'm feeling it in a journey style. It's making its way through my body into the earth, and Mother Nature will now take care of it. And I'm not going to act or not act based on the anxiety.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi,
You are...
I'm Tom.
Hi. Oh, hi, Tom. I didn't recognize you with the mask. There you are.
I'm reminded of a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Yes, what a great title.
Cynthia Kersey, I think. And if I recall, I think it was an anthology of stories provided by notable people in business or whatever who had, overcome great challenge. And, it strikes me that there's something that, in seeing this in others, like there's something laudable about facing a fear and overcoming it and moving through it, like you described. Almost as if that's something that we aspire to, as part of human nature. Like if somebody accomplishes something but it didn't involve, anything particularly, overcoming anything in particularly fearful, we're like, okay, well that's nice, he built something. Can you speak a little bit about, like, maybe why that is that we are, how that is that we can see it in others and learn from it?
You mean see fear in others?
Yeah, or no, we see the overcoming of fear in others. And somehow that seems to inspire us.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're referring to courage, which is to act with fear rather than because of it. Act because of fear, that's cowardice. Act with fear, that's courage. There might be somebody who has no fear whatsoever.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That person would act courageously. But yeah, it's a beautiful characteristic of ours that we're able to do that. That we could, shall we say, combine the opposites. So here you are feeling fear, which paralyzes you into retreating, but instead you advance toward whatever is scary and handle it. And now you have combined the opposites. You have combined fear and fearlessness. And by the way, from a Jungian point of view, all the characteristics in us are pairs of opposites. A perfect example is a coin. A coin has heads or tails. There's no such thing as a coin with just one side. It has to have two sides. So if you have fear, you also have courage. If you have patience, if you have impatience, you also have patience. If you have love, you also have indifference, and so forth. So all of us have access, inner resources, they are really, access to all the virtues. And when we see people, as Tom just said, who show the courage, it activates that in us. And so we want to act the same way. We kind of, shall we say, imitate. And we even have neurons in our brain that have to do with imitating. I saw an example of it when I raised my hand like this and said no to fear. I noticed some people raised their hand without me recommending it. In other words, their imitative neurons just made them do what I was doing. And think of people that you know that are courageous and say to yourself, yeah, I want to be like that too. How can I be like that? Admit that I'm afraid. It's paradoxical because you're admitting something that you might be embarrassed to admit. The embarrassment helps us move toward the opposite. So does awkwardness. Then I am letting the fear happen as opposed to trying to stop it by using drugs, turning to some kind of an addiction, taking a drink. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just letting it happen. And then I'm acting as if it couldn't stop or drive me. Did you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment.
Yeah.
My name is Greg.
Hi, Greg.
I want to recommend a movie that I think is about this. It's Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks, and it's called Defending Your Life.
Oh, it's good.
And the one phrase that comes out of that is face your fear. It's about after life you have to defend what you did or didn't do in your life. And to really advance, you need to face your fear. So it's a fun movie. And it's sort of spiritual.
Oh, thank you. What's it? It's called Defending Your Life.
Defending Your Life.
I don't think I saw that one.
Albert Brooks?
Yeah, Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep.
Thank you.
Also, I think Laurence Olivier once said that there's no great play without a moment of courage where the main character has to take in new information and confront it.
Step up to the plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom online has a question. Go ahead and unmute, Tom.
Yes,
Hi, Tom.
I really like I really like the the image you used of the elephant grounding his fear in the earth. I always thought the elephant was just raging, but I guess that is really, the basis of that is fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I really like what you said about the elephant grounding himself, and I just wondered if there's a way to somatically implement that. And what came to me was, of course, the breath, and then maybe just grounding your feet.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be appropriate to like throw yourself on the earth, but I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can see this statue of Buddha here, but he's doing exactly that. He's
right,
touching the earth with his right hand. This is when his enemies said, on what basis are you presenting these teachings? Do they come from some kind of an authority that we can trust? He touched the earth. He said, this is my witness. This is where I got it, right here from the earth. So we could do something like that also. And I'm glad you reminded me about the rage, because another feature of the story that I forgot to mention is people coming at you with hate and aggression are actually afraid of you. So if you could see into their fear and somehow mirror it, tell me what scares you about me. If they could somehow stop the way the elephant did and say, what? And respond. That would be very truthful on their part, because behind every hate is fear. It's not anger that's behind hate. Anger is in the very definition of hate. Hate, strong anger with ill will and an insatiable desire for revenge. Hate, rage, ill will. I want the worst to happen to you. And I want to get back at you, but not just once. I want to keep getting back at you forever. That's hate. And it's grounded in fear. Did you have more to say?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
I'm just really struck by how much the turning toward the fear involves an acceptance. There's the allowing, like there's accepting, oh, maybe I'm embarrassed, maybe I makes me feel ashamed, or I'm weak, all those things, and it's just, there's an okayness with being afraid.
Yeah. That's part of the loving kindness practice toward ourselves. I also want to be sure to mention that some of our fears are trauma-based. So some of the fears that we have are a form of post-traumatic stress. When they scared the living daylights out of us in childhood, parents, church, school, society, peers, whoever did it, we might be carrying that kind of fear, trauma-induced fear. And when anything happens that reminds you of something from childhood, you feel as powerless as you did when you were a child, because the fear is coming from the amygdala, primitive part of the limbic system that has no sense of past, present, and future. Everything is in the present. Even things that happened 50 years ago feel like they're happening right now. And that's what post-traumatic stress is about. So you also want to identify if your fear is happening because of trauma. And that's where it would really be helpful to go to a somatic therapist who could use EMDR or other methods that would help with fear. And we all have these kind of fears. It's just a matter of whether they are interfering with your being able to live your life or whether they're just kind of background. We want to remember that there are some fears and some issues that we carry around that couldn't bear being looked at because they were so big and we just have never built up enough resources to handle them. This poem by Emily Dickinson helps us understand. There is a pain so utter, it swallows substance up, then covers the abyss with trance. So memory can step around across upon it, as one within a swoon goes safely where an open eye would drop her bone by bone. In other words, there are some things that happen to us that were so terrible, we're not capable of looking at them directly. If we did, we would fragment, drop her bone by bone. So we're better off swooning, fainting away, not looking, go into the realm of trance, cover the abyss. And as long as you can do that and still have a reasonably healthy existence, it's perfectly okay. And beware of anybody who tries to force you to look at something that you're just not ready to look at. So I just wanted to throw that in. It's kind of a separate, bigger topic, but it's just worth mentioning.
Beautiful poem.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yes.
We have, oh yeah. Hi, Pat.
Hi. Is there something of value in cultivating a relationship with fear, like seeking out fear, like kind of considering that if you're not scared in doing something or approaching something, you're not doing something as valuable as other things?
No, you don't want to shame yourself for any of this. You just want to be okay with, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is what I can handle. And all that matters is that I'm making whatever little progress each day that I can. But you don't want to be feeling bad if you can't even do the little program of the 3 A's, if you're not ready for that. No, I can't do that. I guess I could admit to myself, but I can't do the next 2. That's okay. You're just saying, okay, that places me on the grid, and now my work is to move as slowly as I require to make my progress. And you're reminding me of a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, great spiritual classic of Hinduism. Even a little progress is complete freedom from fear. Even a little progress is complete freedom from fear. What a paradox. But tell me again if I didn't answer the question.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of, like, if in approaching or thinking of things to fill your time with, or that things are more valuable if they generate fear in you. Kind of that, and maybe it's kind of an addiction to fear or something.
Do you have an example?
Well, maybe like public speaking or something. Like if I'm feeling, if I get comfortable enough in a group that I'm not challenged to speak with them, then maybe I need to find a bigger group or a more or something, that there's growth in. I guess the idea is if there's growth in seeking out fear.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go and look for it. I would just, see what happens. If it comes along, then you will respond. That's what I mean by part of this is trusting yourself. I saw this movie once with John Wayne. They were going to have a big battle the next day with the bad guys. And there was a young fellow there. John Wayne was walking by, and the guy looked kind of distressed. So John Wayne said, what's the matter? And the young fellow said, gee, we got the big battle tomorrow. I'm afraid I don't know if I can really do this. And I don't remember the exact words, but I can share the concept. I thought it was wonderful. John Wayne said, when it's time for you to step up as a man, you will. Just trust that. I thought, wow, that's very good psychology. Well, I'd like to share one other final quote, and this is from Dune by Frank Herbert. So when the people on this planet feel fear, they have an affirmation that they go to, which I would like to share and then comment on. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past me, I will turn to see fear's path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Isn't that beautiful? You can find it online. Fear is the mind killer. To see that fear comes at us like a bully. That's what fear is. It's a bully. It picks on the people who are at a low ebb. It picks on little scaredy cats like ourselves. The bully, the mind killer, the little death that brings total obliteration. And then he answers, I will face my fear. How do I face my fear? I admit it, allow it, and then act as if it couldn't stop me. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. So that's the second part. That's the I will allow it. And when it has gone past me, so now what he's doing is he's separating the fear from himself. So that's the paradox. When you let it in, it goes through and out and becomes separate from you. So you're no longer possessed by fear. Now you're going to relate to it. So if the fear goes through me, according to what he's saying here, I will permit it to pass over me and through me. Then it'll have gone past me. I will turn to see fear's path. I'll see the fear moving away, going elsewhere. And where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So it starts with, I am possessed by fear, the mind killer. I let the fear go through me, it separates out, and then it disappears altogether, and there's only I. This is so beautifully done. I mean, it's just is psychologically quite sound. And it also reminds us that regarding any feeling or anything or any person, our healthiest plan is to relate to it, not be possessed by it. So if I can relate to Johnny Walker, rather than have Johnny Walker take over my entire life, I'm going to be much healthier. Difference between relate and possess. So we're looking for ways that would let the fear go through and out rather than take over. Other questions about this part? Jerry?
This may sound strange, but is there a difference between being scared and fear?
Same.
Okay, then why do people like going to scary movies?
Well, that's a wonderful question and it's such a good idea to go to a scary movie, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself the experience of feeling fear safely. What makes fear so scary is that it's unsafe. Rattlesnakes, unsafe. But if you're looking at a film of rattlesnakes and you see John Wayne handling it, you feel safe. So here I am seeing a rattlesnake attack, but I'm safe in watching it. At first I'm scared when I hear the rattle, but then and this also has to do with childhood. I've thought of this from time to time. What mattered was not what happened to us, but how they, our caretakers, how they held us in the experience. Did they hold us with calming acceptance as we went through things? If they did, we would learn to hold ourselves with calm acceptance, because we would be imitating their form of self-nurturance. So you're going to have less fear if you come from a family in which, when you felt afraid, someone said, mother or father, someone said, yeah, it really is scary, isn't it? As opposed to, there's nothing to be afraid of, what's wrong with you? The nothing to be afraid of, what's wrong with you, does not mirror the human experience. Shames you, something's wrong with you for having that feeling. But hello, it's a normal human feeling to have. Is my time up altogether?
We have 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Yeah.
Hi.
I'm Ray.
Hi, Ray.
You said something about trust being very important, and I wonder if you could say more. It sounds like that's kind of the core, or something to aspire to have. Trust that things will work out, or I can do this.
Mm-hmm. And one of my books is called Daring to Trust. And I thought to myself, daring is the word that has to be in this title, because that's what you're doing when you trust. You're daring. To trust is to, shall we say, act as if it were safe and secure to be where you are. So I can trust myself, I can trust others, and I can trust the events of ordinary human life experience when I believe that I can be safe and secure as I go through them. In a relationship, you would unhealthy style of relationship would be child to parent. I trust you always to be there for me. I trust you to be totally faithful. I trust you to have my back at all times. That's the child version of trust. The adult version of trust, from a psychological point of view, is different. I trust myself to receive your fidelity with appreciation. I trust myself to handle your betrayals with grief and without retaliation. See, it's a different direction of trust. If what you're saying is, I need you to be there for me at all times, faithful at all times, so I never have to feel grief. I need you to do that for me. That's the child's request. The adult request is more of an affirmation on your side. We have an agreement that we will be there for each other. We have an agreement that we will be faithful to each other. We have a contract for monogamy, and I intend to follow it, and I, of course, hope that you will too. But ultimately, I trust myself to receive your trustworthiness, and I commit myself to handle your lack of trustworthiness without retaliation. That's what it would sound like in a truly healthy bond. Well, thank you all for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Are there any announcements? Yes, sir?
Yes. Last night I saw Chanticleer's Christmas concert at St. Ignatius, and it's absolutely glorious. There's one more night tonight if anyone is missing sublime choral music, and also they're very, very attractive men, and they work very good at what they do. So it's sort of a visual fest as well.
We have a host today.
Hi, I'm the host today, my first time, and luckily we have a script for this. So please stay and enjoy the company of the Sangha after we go out into the next room. There are refreshments and hot water for tea. I brought chocolate chip cookies with cranberries in them, and there's some dates. If you use a cup, please wash it, or you can just put it in the sink, and I'll take care of that. And I'll be going around with the Don Goal to accept contributions to cover our expenses. Your generosity is appreciated. Donations in the range of $10 to $20 help the Sangha meet its expenses. These include honorarium for our Dharma speakers, rent for this beautiful center, monthly dinners are on hold, but when we start that, it helps to pay for that also. Our quarterly newsletter mailed mostly to people in prison. There's a newcomer's sign-up sheet on the credenza if you wish to be included and receive our Sangha membership directory. Please sign up and include contact information you wish to share with the group. Some members go out to lunch after the meeting. Everyone is welcome to join them. The group meets at the front door around 12:30 p.m.
All right. Bravo. Any other announcements? Any announcements from online? Next week is open discussion, so in the room we'll have small discussion groups, and on Zoom we'll have breakout rooms. Any other announcements? All right. Do you have a dedication of merit, or would you like to?
Yes.
All right, cool.
By the power of this and of all our practices, may we greet the all-illuminating dawn of love and wisdom.
and may we always be loyal to those who are still lost in the darkening sunset of fear and craving.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.